Hi everyone, how you doing? Today, let's look at premium dental implants versus, let's say, mid-range dental implants. Does it actually make a difference? A little while ago, somebody did comment on my videos saying that he's been given the option of having premium or kind of standard implants. The premium ones obviously cost a little bit more, and what should he do? I'm going to look at this in two different ways. I'm going to give you a dentist and a dental practice perspective because I've crunched the numbers and the difference is staggering. But also, I'm going to give you what I honestly feel from a patient's perspective. Does it actually make a difference on the quality of the implants? Now, over the years, we've used a vast variety of different styles of implants. We've used expensive ones, we've used kind of mid-range brands as well. I've never really gone to the ultra budget. However, I know they're available, but I don't have first-hand experience with them. And honestly, I don't think there is a big difference in the end result. There are specific implants for specific situations, but I'll cover that a little bit later. So I did a little bit of a mathematical exercise the other day. I looked at, okay, look, what would my cost be if we used premium dental implants for an all-on-4 treatment? And I assumed we're literally just putting 4 implants in, but this isn't just the cost of the implant. There's a lot of auxiliary costs. There's what we call the abutment cost, then there's the kind of impression cylinder cost. There's a bunch of other things that we need to add on to each number of implants. And for a comparison, I use Straumann, which is typically what we would use for most of our cases, versus Neodent, which confusingly is actually owned by Straumann anyway, but it's their kind of mid-range dental implant. And for years we used Neodent, right? It's a good quality implant. However, for an all-on-4 case, 4 implants, the difference was nearly £800 in what I would need to spend to kind of upgrade to the other type of implant. So this is roughly a 35% reduction in our direct costs. Now, on average, I think our bill of dental implants per month is somewhere between £10,000 and £20,000 typically on a given month. This is roughly between £3,500 to £7,000 we could be saving as a business every single month. Okay, this is Ferrari money. I could have a Ferrari if I just switched all of our patients to have Neodent implants, and I honestly think, well, 100% nobody would know the difference. Now, let's say we passed all of this cost saving down to the patient. This would result in, what, £800 over a full arch of dental implants. It's a significant saving, okay, but it's not the be all and end all. In our experience, we found that a lot of people will be willing to spend a little bit more, in percentage terms. I'm not saying £800 is not a lot of money. It's a significant amount of money. But over the whole lifespan of the treatment, we're doing this once. Why not go for a premium option? Okay, at least this would be my thought process if I was going to buy something. And this cost difference becomes even less if we're looking at single tooth implants, because single tooth implants require less components as well. So the difference might be £100, something like that. Okay, maybe £200 maximum. But again, over the lifespan of this treatment, I would, without even thinking about it, I would spend the extra £200 to have a premium implant. And I think this is the ethos of our practice, okay? And we're a small scale practice. We've got 2 treatment rooms. It's not like we're a massive place. But I've always felt that if I'm going to do something for a patient, they're putting a massive amount of trust in me, I just don't want the stress of compromising somewhere. If I know that, I've used a component where I think I could potentially get a better thing, okay, and pay a little bit more, I will always go towards that, as long as, financially it's not that dramatic a difference. And all of our pricing is based on using premium implants because I just don't want the stress of using something which is perceived to be substandard. But it's not really, because these are really great implants, and the end result, I honestly cannot say that one particular brand is any better in delivering an end result. Of course, there are differences in the actual implants, okay? And when we're getting implant-specific differences, there's things like what's called a bone-level implant. Then you got a collar on an implant, which is a polished surface. This is called tissue-level implants. Then we've got differences in the thread shape. You can get cylindrical implants, or you can get very tapered implants. All of these have their own advantages in certain situations. So for an all-on-4, typically, I would use a certain style of implant. Now, the thing is, is, all of the brands of implants, Straumann, Neodent, I'm not sure about Neodent if they do tissue level, but you can get, many companies will offer different styles of implants within their product range. Now, recently we had a lady who had her All-on-4 treatment done elsewhere, and she brought in all the paperwork regarding all of her implants, and the dentist had used Nobel implants. Okay, fantastic brand, kind of like, one of the premium brands. And she had this bridge, and the bridge was a zirconia. It had a metal bar within it. It was literally exactly, the same kind of stuff which we would do in our practice here. I was really happy to see that. However, if you look at the photo of where her implants are, you can see that this one kind of just sticks out a little bit. It's not in this kind of little envelope of this kind of U-shaped envelope or N-shape, depending on which way up the photo is. But you can see that this one's slightly out of position. This means that the gum around this one is a little bit thinner. Even the front two are a little bit forward. So even in this case, where premium intra and probably ultra premium, I think Nobel are probably more expensive than Straumann to buy. I haven't looked at it recently. However, the best implants have been used. However, the positioning is not perfect. Okay, this is not terrible by any means. And if we look at my own cases, especially from the early years, I'm sure I'm going to see similar things, because with practice and experience, you get better and you learn to manipulate the gums and the bone to have this kind of issue much less often. For example, this is a case we did a few weeks ago, and you can see that each implant is surrounded by really thick gum. I could have used Neodent, or in the days where I used to go from practice to practice to place dental implants, the practice maybe would choose to have cheaper implants. But to look at the photo, you probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference. The thing is, especially on an all-on-4 treatment, the implants go in, and then you have something called a multi-unit abutment placed, okay? And these multi-unit abutments all look really, really similar. In fact, Nobel Biocare came up with a design, and everyone seems to have copied it. Now, there are slight variations, but the principle is still the same. You have these kind of cone-shaped things, and you can easily fit a full set of teeth on these little cones. So really, once this implant is in, and you've got this multi-unit abutment on top of this implant, there's very little difference between any kind of implant brand. You would hope that that surgery is done once, and then we don't touch anything after that. Now, from a marketing perspective, it does typically help if you can reduce your costs, especially on your website, because a lot of people don't really know what to compare. Okay, as a patient, very few people know the different brands of implants. A lot of people know Straumann, but there's other, like even Zimmer. Okay, this is a company which hardly anybody's heard of, but really premium implants. We used Southern implants for a long time, and a lot of people haven't heard of Southern. Now, you can go to extremes to use a less expensive implant, and there are, the places where you go and all they do is all-on-4. A lot of these places, when they started out, they would import implants from different companies, and that would help keep their costs really low, because they are competing very much on cost. They know that the vast majority of people aren't going to be watching videos like this. They're going to hear about a treatment, and then they think every practice does exactly the same way, and the only differentiating factor is the cost, okay? And well, I'll go to that place because this is all they do, and they're doing it at half the cost, okay? It's fine, but it's a very superficial way of looking at it. Now, like I said, my practice is built on quality. I want to be able to treat my parents in the same way that I treat every single one of my patients. We're going to put in our heart and soul for every single patient. And if I was having an implant, I would want a premium implant myself. Okay, there's no logical reason for this. I've been through all the logic. You can see that if you're thinking logically, there's very little compelling evidence why you should go for a premium implant, other than the kind of prestige. At the beginning of this video, I said that if I switched my implant system, I could have a Ferrari. there is no need to have a Ferrari. It's purely an emotional purchase. But a lot of people who are especially into cars, it's that kind of halo thing. It's like, yeah, this car is a bit better than, well, a lot better because of the heritage, and you buy the story and you buy the background. And these big companies, the reason they have a reputation is because they've done so much research, and they've been able to fund a lot of research in dental implants, okay? And that's how they bring out certain innovative products, and then the mass market just copies those products, which is what's happened with All-on-4. Now, you get this with every single market. Like, I'm a guitar player, right? And even in guitars, you can spend so much money. A friend of mine just texted me a photo of a Gibson Les Paul, which is like £300,000. Okay, I don't know who's buying a £300,000 guitar, but I also know if you give Slash a £100 Squire guitar, he will make that sound amazing. And I think a lot of this is true with implants as well, okay? If you give an experienced surgeon basic implants, they will make those work, and they will position them in a really good way, thinking about the long-term health, thinking about the quality of gum, choosing the right style of implant for the quality of bone that they've got or the situation that they're dealing with. And I go on about this in every single video. I think it is the experience of the surgeon who you see which will make a much bigger difference in terms of your quality of your end result compared with the actual implant that's being used. It's so natural to get fixated on something that we can compare. Even if we're buying cameras, right? It used to be, megapixels. You just look at megapixels. Maybe cameras wasn't the best example because very few people actually buy cameras these days. We've all got phones. But even when you're buying phones, every year Apple will release a new phone, and they'll try and wow you with all these facts and figures. And then if you go and buy one, you'll tell all your friends, oh, it's got X number of megapixels on this camera. This phone is really good. But the reality is, if you want to take a good photo, a good photographer can take an excellent photo on an iPhone, and they don't need to have a £20,000 Hasselblad camera to do that. Okay, so I hope you found this video useful. I hope you found it insightful. If you've got questions, comments, please leave them below. I will read them, but I would love to hear your thought process on this. Okay, if you're going down this journey, would you pay a little bit more for a premium implant? Now, if you've been following this channel for a little while, okay, maybe you want a little bit more information, you want to go behind the scenes. I'm actually starting a kind of a newsletter, but a newsletter just sounds really boring. It's like an insiders club, okay? All you need to do is just go to my website, okay, and sign up for this. It's completely free. And I'm going to send like additional information, okay? Stuff that I can't maybe say so freely on public channels like this, where we're thinking about algorithms and, certain topics. There's a lot of stuff which I feel would be useful that maybe I can't say so freely. So if you want to join into this like Insiders Club, I'll leave a link in the description below, and you can go there and sign up. So until next time, guys, take care.